Revealing the hidden truth, 50 years later, final files on JFK, MLK and RFK murders set for release. On January 23, 2025, President Donald Trump signed a historic executive order to declassify and release long-hidden files concerning the assassinations of three significant American figures: President John F. Kennedy JFK, Senator Robert F. Kennedy RFK, and civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. MLK. This unprecedented move, following decades of speculation and conspiracy theories, aims to provide clarity and transparency surrounding these pivotal events that have left lasting impacts on American history and society. Historical context of the assassinations. John F. Kennedy JFK assassination. President Kennedy was assassinated on November 22, 1963 in Dallas, Texas. Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested shortly after the assassination and was identified as the prime suspect. However, Oswald was killed 2 days later by nightclub owner Jack Ruby, which intensified speculation about whether Oswald acted alone or was part of a larger conspiracy. Various theories have emerged over the years implicating the Soviet Union, Cuba, and organized crime fueled by Oswald's past connections and actions leading up to the assassination. Robert F. Kennedy RFK assassination. Senator Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated on June 5, 1968, shortly after delivering a victory speech upon winning the California Democratic primary. Sirhan Sirhan, a 24-year-old Palestinian, was arrested at the scene and later convicted of murder. Sirhan's defense team has claimed that he was framed, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has suggested potential involvement of the CIA in his father's murder, adding another layer to the ongoing debate about the circumstances surrounding RFK's assassination. Martin Luther King Jr. MLK assassination. MLK was shot and killed on April 4, 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee by James Earl Ray, who was later arrested and convicted. Prior to his assassination, the FBI engaged in efforts to undermine King's activism, including sending him a letter that attempted to blackmail him. The FBI surveillance and reports suggested that King had connections with individuals linked to communism, raising questions about the agency's motives and actions towards the civil rights leader. The executive order. The executive order signed by Trump described the release of these files as long overdue, recognizing the persistent public demand for transparency regarding these historical events. The order requires the Department of Justice and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence to prepare for the full disclosure of records related to the JFK assassination within 15 days and for RFK and MLK within 45 days. Trump emphasized that everything will be revealed, indicating a commitment to addressing the lingering questions that surround these assassinations. Public reaction and anticipation. The announcement has generated significant public interest and anticipation, with many hoping that the released documents will shed light on the complexities of these assassinations and potentially dispel long-standing conspiracy theories. Historians, journalists, and the general public are eagerly awaiting the release of the files, which are expected to provide insights into the investigations and the political climate of the time. Implications for conspiracy theories. The release of these files may have far-reaching implications for the numerous conspiracy theories that have developed around JFK, RFK, and MLK's assassinations. While some believe that the documents could confirm existing theories, others hope they will provide counter-evidence that challenges the narratives surrounding these events. The potential for new information to emerge from the declassified files could reshape public understanding of these pivotal moments in American history. Comparative analysis of media coverage. Various media outlets have provided differing perspectives on Trump's executive order and its implications. The New York Post concentrated on the immediate effects of the order and the personal motivations of Trump, suggesting that the release could serve his political interests. In contrast, CNN and Al Jazeera offered broader historical context, emphasizing the public's long-standing demand for transparency and the potential political ramifications of the document release amid Trump's ongoing political activities. New York Post focused on Trump's motivations and the procedural aspects of the release. CNN highlighted the historical significance of the documents and the public sentiment surrounding their release. Al Jazeera emphasized political ramifications, discussing how the release might affect ongoing discussions about governmental accountability. Conclusion: the decision to declassify and release files on the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and MLK represents a significant moment in American history with the potential to provide clarity on events that have shaped the nation for decades. As the public awaits the release of these documents, the anticipation reflects a broader desire for transparency and truth regarding the events that led to the loss of three influential leaders. The implications of this release could resonate deeply within American society and politics, offering new insights into the narratives that have defined these tragic events. The release of the final files on the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and MLK, scheduled for January 2025, presents several counterintuitive elements that challenge popular narratives and assumptions surrounding these historical events. 1. Official motives versus public perception. The common belief is that the government has consistently sought to suppress information regarding these assassinations to protect its reputation. However, the decision by President Trump to declassify these files could be interpreted as an effort to enhance transparency and restore public trust. This reversal of expectations, where government action is seen as potentially beneficial rather than purely self-serving, contrasts with the prevailing skepticism about official narratives. 2. Conspiracy theories versus individual actions. While conspiracy theories often dominate discussions about these assassinations, the historical records may reveal more about the individual actions of the assassins than about broader conspiracies. For example, Lee Harvey Oswald's complicated background, including his ties to communist ideologies and his erratic behavior, may suggest that he acted independently rather than as part of a larger plot. This challenges the intuitive belief that high-profile assassinations must involve intricate conspiracies. 3. The role of the FBI. The FBI's involvement in undermining Martin Luther King Jr. through surveillance and attempts at blackmail reveals a counterintuitive reality. The very institutions that were supposed to protect civil rights leaders were engaged in actions that sought to discredit and destabilize them. This contradicts the expectation that law enforcement agencies primarily act to protect citizens and uphold justice. For family perspectives on conspiracy, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s claims about the CIA's involvement in his father's assassination introduce a counterintuitive narrative where a family member potentially perpetuates conspiracy theories that are at odds with the legal outcomes of the case. This illustrates how personal motivations and family dynamics can shape public discourse on historical events in unexpected ways. 5. Political timing. The timing of the file release amid Trump's political activities may suggest ulterior motives linked to current political dynamics rather than a purely historical or ethical imperative. This juxtaposition raises questions about whether the release is intended to provoke public debate that could benefit certain political agendas, challenging the assumption that historical truths are being prioritized over contemporary political calculations. 6. Public demand for transparency. The overwhelming public desire for transparency regarding these assassinations contrasts sharply with the historical context in which these events were initially investigated. The assumption that the government would keep such secrets indefinitely is challenged by the reality that public pressure can lead to significant changes in policy even decades later. 7. Complexity of assassination narratives. The narratives surrounding these assassinations are often simplified into good versus evil or hero versus villain frameworks. However, the complexity of the motivations and backgrounds of figures like Oswald and Sirhan Sirhan complicate these narratives, suggesting that personal psychological and socio-political factors intertwine in ways that undermine straightforward interpretations. 8. Historical revisionism. The anticipated release of these documents may also lead to historical revisionism, where new interpretations of events are shaped not just by the contents of the files but by the contemporary political climate. This suggests that history is not static but is continually rewritten in light of new information and societal attitudes, countering the idea that historical facts are immutable. In summary, the upcoming release of files related to the JFK, RFK, and MLK assassinations is rife with counterintuitive elements that challenge established narratives and assumptions. This complexity underscores the interplay between historical events, individual actions, and the evolving nature of public perception and political motivations. The release of the final files on the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and MLK in January 2025 under President Donald Trump's executive order has drawn significant public attention, but several important aspects of this event may be overlooked by many. Understanding these nuances is crucial for comprehending the broader implications of this release, both historically and politically. 1. The timing of the release. One often overlooked aspect is the timing of the file release in relation to Trump's political landscape. The decision to declassify these files comes at a time when Trump is re-establishing himself in the political arena, potentially as a candidate for the 2024 presidential election. By framing the release as an act of transparency and accountability, Trump could be attempting to bolster his image among voters who value openness in government. This can be seen as a strategic move to regain support from those who might view the release as long overdue and indicative of a leader willing to confront historical injustices. 2. Public sentiment and historical context. While many anticipate that the release will clarify conspiracy theories surrounding the assassinations, it is essential to recognize the historical context of public sentiment towards these events. The assassinations of JFK, RFK, and MLK have long been associated with deep mistrust in government institutions. The release of these files is not merely about unveiling facts, it represents an opportunity for the government to address a historical narrative that involves cover-ups and systemic failures. The significance lies in whether these documents will indeed confront or perpetuate existing narratives of government complicity or negligence. 3. Implications for conspiracy theories. Public fascination with conspiracy theories surrounding these assassinations is profound. Many people expect that the released documents will either confirm or dispel long-standing theories about government involvement. However, a critical overlooked point is that even if the files provide substantial evidence countering popular conspiracy theories, it may not lead to widespread acceptance of these findings. The psychological and cultural factors that contribute to belief in conspiracies often resist factual correction. This means that the release of the files could serve to further entrench divisions in public belief rather than unify understanding. 4. The role of the FBI and intelligence agencies. The documents are likely to reveal more about the roles played by the FBI and other intelligence agencies, particularly in the context of MLK's assassination. Many people may overlook the significance of the FBI's prior actions against King, including surveillance and attempts to undermine his credibility. The historical implications of this are vast, pointing to a pattern of governmental overreach and abuse of power that continues to resonate in contemporary discussions about civil rights and state surveillance. Understanding the extent of these actions within the context of the assassinations could provide valuable insights into the ongoing struggle for civil rights and the relationship between the government and marginalized communities. 5. The psychological impact of the assassinations. Another significant aspect often overlooked is the psychological trauma inflicted on the American public by these assassinations. The assassinations of three prominent leaders within a span of just a few years contributed to a collective sense of instability and fear in the United States. While historians and political analysts may focus on the political ramifications, the societal impact, particularly on trust in leadership and the political process, is profound. The release of these files may reopen wounds for many, particularly for those who lived through these events. 6. Potential redactions and limitations. As with many declassified documents, there is a high likelihood that significant portions of the files will be redacted. This could lead to frustration among the public and historians who might hope for complete transparency. The existence of redactions can perpetuate conspiracy theories rather than dispel them, as they may be interpreted as evidence of ongoing government secrecy. Thus, the effectiveness of this release in achieving transparency may be undermined by the limitations placed on what can actually be disclosed. 7. Political ramifications for the Kennedy family. The release of these files also holds potential political ramifications for the Kennedy family, particularly Robert F. Kennedy Jr. His past claims regarding CIA involvement in his father's assassination highlight a complex interplay between personal tragedies and broader political narratives, as he positions himself within the political landscape. The release of these files could bolster or challenge his views and influence his political capital. The significance of this connection may be overlooked in broader analyses focusing solely on the content of the files rather than their impact on living members of the Kennedy family. 8. Impacts on civil rights movements. Finally, the implications of the released documents for current civil rights movements could be significant but are often underestimated. The historical context of MLK's assassination and the FBI's actions against him underscore ongoing issues of racial injustice and governmental accountability. The revelations contained within the files could serve as a catalyst for renewed activism, or conversely, may be seen as evidence of systemic failures that continue to affect marginalized communities. Understanding the link between these historical events and contemporary movements for justice is crucial for a comprehensive analysis of the release's significance. Conclusion. The release of the files concerning the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and MLK marks a pivotal moment in American history, but it is essential to look beyond the surface implications. The timing, psychological impact, potential redactions, and the ongoing relevance to civil rights movements all contribute to a complex narrative that deserves attention. As the public awaits clarity from these documents, it is crucial to approach their release with an understanding of both their historical significance and their potential to shape contemporary discussions about government transparency, accountability, and social justice. 1. Historical context of the assassinations. The release of files on the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and MLK is crucial in understanding the political and social climate of the 1960s. Each assassination was not only a significant loss for the United States but also marked pivotal moments in American history. JFK's assassination in 1963 during a time of Cold War tensions, RFK's murder in 1968 shortly after winning the Democratic primary amid the Vietnam War, and MLK's assassination as the civil rights movement gained momentum all highlight the turbulent nature of the era. Analyzing these events within their historical context can provide insight into the motivations and implications behind each assassination, as well as how they shaped national policies and societal attitudes. 2. Governmental transparency and conspiracy theories. The long-standing public demand for transparency surrounding these assassinations reflects broader themes of mistrust in government institutions. The executive order signed by President Trump to declassify these files is seen as a necessary step towards addressing conspiracy theories and speculations that have flourished over the decades. The impact of this release on public perception and how it may either confirm or debunk existing theories regarding governmental and institutional involvement is a vital discussion point. The anticipation of the file's content raises questions about accountability and the ethical responsibilities of governments in preserving or withholding historical records. 3. Political implications of the release. The timing of the executive order in January 2025 amidst Trump's political activities and possible aspirations for future office suggests a calculated move that has political ramifications. The implications of this release on Trump's political capital, especially in relation to Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s involvement in politics, warrant analysis. This intersection of history and contemporary politics can reveal how historical narratives are often manipulated or revived for current political gain and the potential consequences this has on public understanding of pivotal historical events. 4. Impact on civil rights and social movements. the assassinations of MLK and RFK in particular resonate with ongoing struggles for civil rights and social justice in the United States. The files may shed light on the extent of governmental surveillance and interference in civil rights movements, which is critical for understanding the legacy of these leaders and the ongoing fight for equality. Analyzing how these revelations might influence contemporary social movements as well as public policy related to civil rights can provide a deeper understanding of the historical continuity of these issues and how they are perceived in today's socio-political landscape. 1. Assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand 1914. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria in June 1914 by Gavrilo Princip is often cited as the immediate catalyst for World War I. The event sparked a complex web of alliances and tensions among European powers. The assassination raised questions about the involvement of nationalist groups, particularly the Black Hand, which led to widespread speculation about the broader implications of the event and the motivations behind it. 2. The murder of Julius Caesar 44 BCE. Julius Caesar was assassinated on the Ides of March in 44 BCE by a group of Roman senators including Brutus and Cassius. This act was motivated by fear of Caesar's rising power and potential dictatorship. The assassination is surrounded by debates over the conspirators' motivations. The political climate of Rome and the consequences that followed, including the eventual rise of the Roman Empire under Augustus. 3. The murder of Franz Ferdinand 1914. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria in June 1914 by Gavrilo Princip is often cited as the immediate catalyst for World War I. The event sparked a complex web of alliances and tensions among European powers. The assassination raised questions about the involvement of nationalist groups, particularly the Black Hand, which led to widespread speculation about the broader implications of the event and the motivations behind it. The release of the final files related to the assassinations of John F. Kennedy JFK, Robert F. Kennedy RFK, and Martin Luther King Jr. MLK marks a pivotal moment in American history. As the files are declassified, the implications for public perception, historical scholarship, and political discourse are significant. Predictions for the future. 1. Public reaction and historical reevaluation. The release of these documents is likely to provoke a strong public reaction ranging from outrage to vindication. Depending on the content of the files, there could be a resurgence in conspiracy theories or conversely a more informed understanding of the events. Historians and scholars will re-evaluate these pivotal moments in American history, potentially altering the narratives that have persisted for decades. Expect new books, documentaries, and academic studies to emerge, leading to an enriched understanding of the historical context and possible conspiratorial undercurrents. 2. Impact on conspiracy theories. The transparency brought by the release of these files may lead to a decline in some conspiracy theories while fueling others. If the files contain information that contradicts popular conspiracy narratives, there may be a pushback from conspiracy theorists who resist accepting the new information. Conversely, if the files reveal previously unknown connections or questionable actions by government entities, it could legitimize existing conspiracy theories, leading to further skepticism of government institutions. 3. Political ramifications. The timing of this release during Trump's presidency indicates potential political implications. The revelations could influence the ongoing discussions surrounding government accountability and transparency. If the files suggest any form of governmental misconduct or negligence, it may galvanize public support for reforms in governmental oversight, intelligence operations, and law enforcement practices. Alternatively, if the files are perceived as politically motivated or lacking credibility, it could backfire on Trump and his administration. 4. Legal and institutional changes. Depending on the content of the documents, there could be calls for legal reforms, particularly concerning the powers of the FBI and CIA. If the files reveal unethical surveillance or infiltration tactics against civil rights leaders like MLK, Advocates may push for stricter regulations governing intelligence operations to prevent similar abuses in the future. 5. Cultural shifts. The revelations could lead to a shift in how American society views its leaders and institutions. A deeper understanding of the complexities and potential failures surrounding these assassinations might foster a more critical view of political figures and their legacies. This could also spark discussions about the role of leadership in social movements and the responsibilities of government toward its citizens. 6. Increased engagement with historical context. The release of these files may inspire a renewed interest in civil rights history and the political climate of the 1960s. Educational institutions might incorporate these discussions into curricula, fostering a generation that is more aware of the struggles and sacrifices made for social justice. This could lead to greater civic engagement and activism, particularly among younger generations who seek to understand and learn from past injustices. 7. Technological considerations. The digital age has changed how information is disseminated and consumed. The release of these files will likely be accompanied by social media discussions, online forums, and viral content that dissect the findings. This will create a new dynamic in how history is debated and understood, as real-time reactions can shape public perception almost instantaneously. 8. International implications. The ramifications of these revelations may extend beyond American borders, impacting international relations, particularly with countries like Cuba and Russia, which were associated with the context of JFK's assassination. The release of documents could lead to renewed scrutiny of U.S. foreign policy during the Cold War, influencing how other nations view America's historical actions and its implications for current geopolitical tensions. 9. Potential for activism and advocacy. If the files reveal systemic injustices or highlight the struggles of marginalized communities during the civil rights movement, it could reignite activism and advocacy efforts. Movements aimed at addressing racial injustice, government accountability, and civil liberties may gain momentum, leading to increased participation in protests, policy advocacy, and community organizing. 10. Legacy of JFK, RFK, and MLK. Ultimately, the release of these files will influence the legacies of JFK, RFK, and MLK. The manner in which they are portrayed will depend significantly on the nature of the information disclosed. If the files shed light on their contributions and the opposition they faced, it could solidify their status as martyrs for justice and equality. Alternatively, if the files present them in a more controversial light, it could complicate their legacies and provoke discussions about the often murky intersections of power politics and morality. Conclusion. The release of the final files on the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and MLK represents a watershed moment in American history. As society processes this new information, the implications will reverberate across political, social, and cultural landscapes, shaping the future discourse around governance, accountability, and civil rights for years to come. The anticipation surrounding these revelations underscores the enduring impact of these historical events and the ongoing quest for truth in the face of complex histories.